The night it all began, Noah Walker knelt in the freezing mud with his best friend's blood soaking through his hands. The desert wind howled across the ruins of the blown-out compound, carrying the metallic sting of gunfire and something far worse, the knowledge that they had been abandoned. Command wouldn't answer. Evac wouldn't come. The shipment they were promised, the one that could have saved them, had never existed. When Evan's pulse stopped beneath his fingers, Noah felt something inside him crack, not loudly, but with a quiet finality that reshaped the world. The flare he fired into the sky wasn't a call for rescue anymore. It was a signal of betrayal, a burning accusation against men in suits thousands of miles away. Hours later, when they finally pulled him from the wreckage, Noah wasn't the man he'd been. Something colder had taken root. Something that would not forgive and would never forget. By the time Noah Walker saw her in real life, he already hated her. She was everywhere long before she ever stepped into his world. On the muted TV in the VA hospital waiting room, on the news feeds he avoided but could never quite escape, in the offhand jokes of other veterans trying to make sense of the country they'd come home to. Lila Hart, the woman with the red lips and the silver dress, slipping into the back seat of a senator's car like she'd been born to move between shadows and flashbulbs. On screen, she laughed easily, chin tilted, eyes half-lidded. Noah remembered the headline crawling under her image that first day. Senator Cole's mystery woman sparks new ethics questions. Underneath that, in smaller font, another story about budget cuts for veterans' mental health services. He'd turned the TV off with a little more force than necessary. A month later, she walked through the glass doors of the private security firm where he'd just been hired, and the universe decided to be cruelly on the nose. "Walker," his new boss said, jerking his head toward the entrance. "Meet your client." Noah rolled his shoulders, feeling the familiar pull of the scar tissue in his thigh. The lobby of the Georgetown office was all polished marble, chrome, and the low hum of an espresso machine. Outside, DC's late autumn wind scraped against the windows, carrying the distant wail of sirens and the honk of impatient drivers. He turned. There she was. Lila Hart looked smaller in person than she did on television. The cameras added something. Height, perhaps, or a layer of invincibility. Here, under the cool lobby lights, she was very human, even if everything she wore screamed otherwise. Black wool coat cinched tight at the waist, heels clicking on the marble, sunglasses that hid half her face despite the cloudy sky outside. A personal assistant trailed behind her, juggling a tablet and a latte. A man in a dark suit held the door for her like he'd been rehearsing it all his life. "Ms. Hart," the boss said, instantly smoother, more deferential than he'd been with Noah. "We're honored to have you. This is Noah Walker, one of our best. Former Army Ranger, recently back stateside. He'll be lead on your protection detail." Her head turned slightly at the word Army. For the barest moment, Noah saw his own reflection in the lenses of her sunglasses. Short-cropped hair, jaw a little too tight, suit that still felt like costume over a body that preferred fatigues. Then she lifted the glasses, and brown eyes met his. They were unexpected. Not the cold, calculating eyes he'd pictured while scrolling past articles, but something else. Sharp, assessing, yes, but with a tiredness settled deep in the iris, like the color there had absorbed too many late nights. "Mr. Walker," she said. Her voice was lower than he'd imagined, edged with a rasp like she never quite slept enough. "Thank you for taking this on." He shook her hand. Her grip was firm, palm cool. "Ma'am," he said automatically. The boss cleared his throat. "We've reviewed the threats you forwarded, Ms. Hart. Anonymous emails, some letters, standard jealousy and moral outrage, Escalated a bit since that last article. Nothing we can't handle. Noah will be with you full time for the next few weeks. Events, home, travel. Our team will coordinate with Senator Cole's security detail when necessary. The name lodged like grit under Noah's tongue. Richard Cole, war hero senator, decorated veteran, the man whose speeches about necessary sacrifice had played on repeat, while Noah's unit sweated under alien stars. Lila Hart gave a small, practiced smile that seemed tailored for this exact moment. The senator's people are busy, she said. A separate detail feels safer and more discreet. Of course. Don't want the wife to see the mistress's calendar, Noah thought, and immediately hated himself for how bitter it sounded, even inside his own head. We'll need to go over your schedule, Noah said, forcing his tone into something neutral, professional. Places you frequent, any patterns. I'd prefer to cut down on those. Her gaze flickered once more across his face, as if cataloging something. Then she nodded. My assistant has everything. She gestured to the young woman behind her. Jenna. Jenna offered a quick, nervous smile, the kind of smile of someone perpetually 5 minutes behind. I'll email you, Mr. Walker. Today is the fundraising gala at the Fairmont, then dinner at... Let him read it, Lila cut in gently. No one remembers anything recited in lobbies. Noah almost smiled at that, but caught himself. They moved to a conference room with a long glass table and a view of the busy street. Cars inched forward. Cyclists threaded through gaps. A jogger in neon dodged a delivery truck. On the far side of the avenue, a homeless vet held up a cardboard sign that read, Served 2 tours, got 0 support. Noah looked. Away. They sat. Lila slid off her coat, revealing a dark green dress that was more modest than the tabloids suggested, though it still hugged her like it had been sewn onto her skin. She placed her phone face down on the table, but close to her hand, a subconscious tell Noah recognized from 100 soldiers separated from their rifles. Our threat assessment flags a few of these as credible, his boss said, tapping on a folder. That's why we recommend full-time protection. Noah will do an initial sweep of your residence today, then accompany you to the gala this evening. Lila nodded. Walk me through what that looks like, Mr. Walker. He opened the folder, the names and phrases leaping off the page. Whore, homewrecker, you'll burn. America loved to be scandalized. It loved, even more, to punish women for reflecting back its obsessions. It looks like this, he said. We minimize your entrances and exits. No unnecessary stops. No sudden changes without telling me first. My team will coordinate with hotel security, check your routes, vehicles, staff. You'll hate how confined it feels. Lila's lips quirked. Confined, she repeated softly. I think I can handle that. He met her eyes. For a heartbeat, the practiced charm fell away, and there was something raw there. A flicker of resentment, maybe, or fatigue so profound it bordered on grief. Then it was gone, replaced by that glossy, distant composure he recognized from the TV. Good, he said, because the people who wrote this, he tapped the folder, aren't just angry. Some of them are unstable. They'll feel justified if they manage to hurt you. They feel justified already, she replied. They read an article and decided they know everything about me. Her tone was light, but the words clipped at the end, like they might cut if you weren't careful. You put yourself in a dangerous position, Noah heard himself say, the soldier in him unable to resist. With a man like Cole, with the kind of spotlight he has. His boss shot him a warning look, but Lila only regarded him with a cool, measured amusement. Did I? She asked. Or did he put himself there when he called me back, knowing the cameras were watching? Noah's jaw tightened. He didn't want to analyze the power dynamics of their little scandal. He wanted simple villains and simple victims like the world pretended to have when it sent 20-year-olds to foreign deserts. Either way, he said, standing, you're my responsibility now. As they wrapped up, his boss drifted out to take a call. Jenna left to arrange transportation, and for a moment Noah found himself alone in the conference room with Lila. The city murmured beyond the glass. "You don't like me very much," she said, not looking at him, fingers tracing the condensation on her water glass. He hesitated. "I don't know you." She smiled faintly. "You think you do. Everyone does. That's how these stories work." He thought of the headlines, the blurred photos of her leaving hotels, the slow-motion clips of her touching Senator Cole's arm at a podium. Stories are what people choose to show, he said, and what they choose to hide. Lila finally turned to face him fully. This close, Noah noticed the tiny, almost invisible scar at the edge of her hairline, a thin, pale line disappearing into her temple. "You're a soldier," she said quietly. "You of all people should know that what ends up on a screen is never the whole story." The words landed heavier than he expected. Sand, gunfire, and a helicopter's thrum rose up unbidden in his mind, along with the memory of a news anchor summarizing months of his life in a 30-second segment. He exhaled slowly. "Maybe." She picked up her phone. A text flashed briefly before she angled it away. Noah only caught a fragment. "Hearing tomorrow. Contract. They know." Her thumb flew over the screen. The mask slid back into place. "I'll see you at the penthouse then?" she asked, standing. "Jenna can give you the address. Bring whatever you need to feel safe." A pause. "To make me safe." He nodded. "We'll do a full sweep. You won't leave the building tonight without me knowing every door you walk through." Lila Hart, America's favorite scandal, slipped her sunglasses back on. For the first time, though, Noah wasn't entirely sure who was hiding behind them. As she left, her heels echoed down the hallway, each click a small metronome counting the seconds between the person the world thought she was and the stranger he was now paid to protect. On the street below, the homeless vet folded his cardboard sign when the rain started, and Noah wondered, not for the first time, what kind of country could turn sacrifice into background noise while obsessing over a woman's dress? He picked up the folder of threats, the photo of Lila descending from a black SUV stamped on the cover. Just another job, he told himself. Somewhere deep beneath that thought, something colder whispered, "You haven't even begun to find out who she really is." Noah arrived at Lila Hart's penthouse just after sunset, when Washington, D.C. glowed like a constellation trapped between steel and glass. The building itself was the kind of place where doormen stood straighter, where the marble lobby reflected not just light, but money, and where every surface seemed to whisper that privacy was a luxury paid in full. He flashed his credentials, and the concierge, mid-40s, precise haircut, expression carved in professionalism, guided him toward the private elevator. "Ms. Hart said you'd be coming," he said as the doors slid closed. "She's in for the night. No visitors." Good, Noah thought. Predictable schedules were easier to secure. The elevator hummed upward, smooth as breath. Somewhere along the 30th floor, the city opened below him, a shifting grid of amber traffic lights, and the flicker of aircraft warning beacons atop distant government buildings. D.C. always looked deceptively peaceful from above, like a battlefield before the mortars fell. When the doors opened, he stepped into quiet. Not the sterile quiet of corporate hallways, but a soft, lived-in hush. The penthouse was dimly lit, the kind of deliberate, curated dimness that made lamplight look like warmth instead of caution. A wide wall of windows overlooked the Potomac, reflecting back the faint silhouette of a woman standing with her back to him. Lila. She didn't turn immediately. She wore a long black robe now, silk maybe, cinched loosely at the waist. Her hair was undone, falling in waves that made her seem younger, or perhaps just less composed. "You're early," she said. "You're alone now," he replied. "That's less than ideal." She gave the faintest shrug. If I needed company, I'd call the senator, wouldn't I? He ignored the jab. Let me do a sweep. This time she did turn, and the robe shifted just slightly with her movement. A version of her the tabloids never captured. Bare feet, shadows under her eyes, a vulnerability disguised as indifference. Go ahead. He walked the perimeter first, checking doors, windows, the balcony access. The place was beautiful, but it was also a nightmare in terms of vantage points. Too many lines of sight from adjacent buildings, too many angles where someone with a scope could wait. You leave your curtains open like this every night? He asked. Should I live in the dark because strangers don't like my personal life? It's not strangers I'm worried about. She said nothing. He moved through the space efficiently. Kitchen, clear. Guest bedroom, clear. Office, locked but clear. What stopped him was the last door. A darker room. A quietness deeper than the rest of the penthouse. Her bedroom. May I? He asked. Lila hesitated only a second. Go ahead. He entered. The first thing he saw was the folded flag on the dresser. Crisp, triangular, encased in glass. His breath hitched. It didn't match anything about her public persona. Not the designer clothes, not the senator's arm around her waist, not the headlines that painted her as a parasite feeding off power. He took a step closer. The plaque beneath the flag held a name he didn't know. Captain Michael Ward. Date of death, 5 years ago. Afghanistan. He felt the room tilt, not physically, but morally, emotionally. Something shifting in a way he hadn't prepared for. Lila appeared in the doorway behind him, her expression unreadable. You can stop judging me out loud, she said quietly. You're doing it enough in your head. He straightened. Was he family? A long pause. My husband. The word landed like a dropped stone. Husband. Not ex, not separated, not divorced, widowed. Why is this here? Noah asked before he could soften the edge in his voice. Why display something so private when the rest of your life looks like... He stopped, like a performance. That's enough. Her voice wasn't angry. It was something worse. Resigned. He took a slow breath. I'm trying to understand how a gold star widow becomes... She finished the sentence for him. A mistress? Her eyes didn't flinch. She'd said the word too many times to ever let it cut her again. Or maybe it always cut. She'd just learned to bleed silently. It's none of my business, he said finally. Your personal life is irrelevant to my job. Then why do you keep looking at me like I'm two different people? She asked. Because you are, he almost replied. But he said nothing. Instead, he finished the sweep and returned to the living room, where Lila had curled up on the corner of the sofa with a glass of water cupped between both hands. The robe had slipped from one shoulder. A TV remote sat beside her, untouched. You'll stay in the guest room, she said, if that works. I'll take the couch. You don't have to. It gives me a clear view of both entrances. She accepted the logic silently. Minutes passed. The city buzzed faintly below them. Noah checked locks again, ran through the threat file, made notes. Everything was ordinary. Almost. Then, her phone buzzed. One message. The screen lit her face in cold blue. Noah only caught a fragment before she turned it away. You think you're safe up there? Slut. Her throat tightened. Just slightly. Just enough for a trained observer to see. Is it one of the same accounts? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was low. No, this one is new. He stepped closer, holding out his hand. Let me read it. She hesitated, but then she placed the phone in his palm. Her fingers brushed his, cold, trembling. The message expanded, revealing more than he expected, words dripping with venom, and something else. Specificity, knowledge. It wasn't random hate anymore. Someone knew her building, her floor, her habits. His pulse ticked upward. "This isn't a crank, he said. "This is someone who's been watching you." Lila swallowed hard. Her composure cracked. Not much, just a hairline fracture. "Noah," she whispered, "am I in real danger?" He met her eyes. For the first time since he'd met her, she wasn't a scandal or a symbol or a tabloid caricature. She was a woman asking a soldier for the truth. "Yes," he said quietly, "you are." But what he didn't say, what he couldn't yet, was the part forming cold and certain in the back of his mind. The danger isn't just about being the senator's mistress. It's about something else, something bigger. And you're not who the world thinks you are. By morning, the city had shed its nighttime shimmer and returned to its more familiar self, gray, impatient, and slightly exhausted, like a commuter, running 10 minutes behind. Noah had barely slept. He dozed for maybe an hour on the couch, the light from the street lamp slicing across the ceiling, every sound in the penthouse. Air vents, distant sirens, the soft rustle of someone moving down the hall, dragging him awake again. When he finally rose, the warmth of dawn had just begun to dissolve the cold glow of the city. He checked the locks, swept the rooms again, scanned the building's security feed from his tablet. Nothing abnormal, nothing comforting either. Then he smelled coffee. Real coffee. Not the acidic office kind, but something rich, dark, faintly floral. He followed the aroma into the kitchen. Lila stood barefoot on the marble floor, hair still damp from a shower, wearing black leggings and an oversized sweater that hung off one shoulder. She looked startlingly normal. Human. The kind of woman who might teach a night class or run a poetry blog. Not the woman the country had decided she was. On the counter near her elbow sat her phone face down. She didn't look up. "There's enough for you." "Thanks." He poured some into a mug, leaned against the counter opposite her. Neither spoke for a moment. The silence felt less sharp this morning, still edged but softer, like the calm after a necessary argument. "Rough night?" she asked. "You could say that." He watched her as she took a small sip. Her hands were steady again. Whatever fear had cracked through her last night, she'd pushed it back behind the walls she wore like second skin. "Has anyone ever gotten close before?" Noah asked. "Close enough to find out where you live?" Her eyes flicked up briefly. "Once, during the first article about me and Cole, someone left flowers outside my old apartment." "Flowers?" he repeated. "Well," she corrected, "a bouquet of dead roses tied with police tape. Artisanal threats, the new American pastime." "You reported it?" "I tried." She shrugged. "They told me there weren't enough resources to assign protection to private consensual affairs." Their words. He stared at her. "They blamed you. They blamed the optics." She set her mug down. "That's almost the same thing." He took a careful step forward. "Lila, whoever sent that message last night knew too much. This isn't an angry spouse or a religious crank. Someone knows your routines, your residence, and your schedule." "I move in public," she said. "People notice." "Not like this." She held his gaze a moment too long, then exhaled softly. "Do what you need to. Just tell me before you turn my whole life into a bunker." He nodded, though he wasn't convinced she understood the severity yet. He began questioning her, methodically, like a soldier mapping terrain. "Any ex-boyfriends? Business associates? Someone who could hold a grudge? No one that obsessive? Family?" A pause. "No," she said quietly. "My parents are gone. No siblings." That surprised him. Something about her had always seemed connected, like she belonged to a large, complicated world. But her answer was brief, final. "Anyone from your husband's past?" he asked. People still reach out sometimes after a soldier dies. Old friends, or her expression shuddered with a swiftness that told him he'd trespassed too far. "Noah," she said, "don't." He studied her face. "You still wear the ring sometimes." She looked down at her hands, bare now. "Sometimes," she admitted. "Not recently." "Why not?" She didn't answer. Instead, she crossed the kitchen, opened the fridge, pulled out a carton of berries. Small, mundane motions. But suddenly there was a tremor beneath them, a kind of quiet storm gathering behind her movements. "For someone who says my personal life isn't his business," she murmured, "you ask a lot of personal questions." He didn't apologize. "Whatever you're hiding, it's going to get someone killed if you don't tell me." Her hand froze midair. A soft knock startled them both. 3 sharp raps on the door. "Stay here," Noah whispered, already moving, every nerve rigid. He checked the peephole. A delivery boy, maybe 19, holding a brown paper bag with a handwritten note attached. He opened the door only a few inches. "Delivery for Ms. Hart?" "We didn't order anything," Noah said. The kid shrugged. "Guy downstairs said it was prepaid." "What's the name on the order?" "Doesn't say." He pointed to the note. "Only this." Noah took the bag, dismissed the kid, shut the door, locked it twice. When he set the bag on the counter, Lila's face drained of color. The handwriting was the same as last night's message. Noah opened the card first. Just 6 words. "You can't hide from the truth." Nothing else. He reached for the bag, carefully unfolding it. Inside was a single object. A military challenge coin, black enamel, silver edges, engraved with a unit emblem he recognized instantly. His chest tightened. "Where did you get this?" he demanded. Lila stared at it like it was a ghost clawing its way out of her past. "I didn't," she whispered. "I've never seen that coin before in my life." Noah closed his hand around it, feeling the weight of it. Heavy, familiar, wrong. "This coin belongs to the 19th, he said. She blinked. "What's the 19th? "My unit," he said. "My brothers. My team." The room fell into a suffocating stillness. Lila's face paled further, but her eyes didn't look surprised. They looked cornered. And suddenly, something clicked. A suspicion. A possibility so wild it felt like fiction. But the tremor in her breathing told him it wasn't. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Lila," he said, "what do you actually know about Senator Cole?" She didn't answer. Her throat worked, her eyes glistened. Not fear, confession. "Tell me the truth," he whispered. And then she said the words that cracked open her whole facade, the first fissure in the lie she'd been living. "Noah." She swallowed hard. "Lila isn't my real name." He stared at her. She continued, voice trembling, "And I'm not the woman you think I am." For a long moment, Noah didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't even blink. The woman standing before him, barefoot, sweater hanging loose, fear trembling at the edge of her voice, felt suddenly unfamiliar, as if the world had rotated slightly and left everything misaligned. "What did you just say?" he asked, voice low. She wrapped her arms around herself, as if bracing against a cold only she could feel. "My name," she whispered, "is Amelia." The syllables hung in the air, soft, ordinary, devastating. "Amelia? What?" Noah pressed. She hesitated. "Amelia Ward." The challenge coin in his hand grew heavier. Ice settled at the base of his spine. "Ward," he repeated slowly. "As in Captain Michael Ward?" Her eyes closed, a painful, involuntary flinch. "Yes," she breathed, "my husband." Noah felt the floor tilt again, but this time it wasn't surprise. It was recognition, something small and sharp, a memory he hadn't connected until now. Captain Ward. The name had floated through his own unit once. The officer whose death had sparked an investigation so quiet it barely whispered through the ranks. Rumors of an ambush that didn't match the official report. Files that disappeared. Questions left unanswered. He stared at her. "You're telling me Lila Hart, Cole's mistress, doesn't exist?" "She exists," Amelia murmured, "just not the way the world thinks." He took a breath. "Explain." She lifted her chin slightly, but her voice stayed soft. "Not here." He frowned. "Why not?" She walked past him into the living room, pulled down a small black box from a shelf that looked decorative, heavy, lacquered, something expensive, but clearly served a purpose. She placed it on the coffee table and opened it. Inside was a compact device with a pulsing green light. "White noise generator," she said. "Military grade. I run it whenever I talk about things I'm not supposed to." The words landed with a weight he didn't expect. She clicked it on. A faint hum filled the room. She sat on the sofa, legs curled beneath her, and nodded toward the chair across from her. "Sit, Noah. Please." He sat, though every instinct screamed to stay standing. For a moment, she simply stared at her own hands. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded tired, bone-deep tired. "After Michael died, nothing made sense," she said. "Not the report, not the timeline, not the way the army handled his belongings, and not the silence. Everyone said it was IEDs, enemy contact, routine, but it wasn't routine. It wasn't even close." He watched her carefully. "How do you know?" She lifted her gaze. In her eyes was something fierce, something he recognized from every soldier who'd ever refused to accept an easy lie. "Because Michael knew something," she said, "something he wasn't supposed to, and he died 2 weeks after he told me he was worried." "What did he tell you?" "That he'd seen crates, markings that didn't match the manifest, weapons that shouldn't have been there. He said procurement numbers were off by miles, whatever that meant. He thought someone in D.C. was rerouting supplies, selling, laundering." Noah's fingers curled around the challenge coin. "And Cole?" he asked quietly. She nodded once. "Michael said Cole's name. Just once. Like he didn't want to believe it himself." Noah felt something inside him go still. Cold. Focused. 6 years ago, Cole had been on every news channel praising the troops, championing defense budgets. If he'd been dipping his hand into military contracts, the scale of that betrayal made Noah's stomach turn. "When Michael died," Amelia continued, "I kept pushing, asking, calling, filing requests. I annoyed the wrong people. And they silenced you. They tried." Her voice sharpened. "But someone in Army intelligence reached out, quietly, privately. He told me Michael wasn't the only soldier flagged for asking questions, that my husband's death had too many inconsistencies to ignore, and he gave me a choice." "What kind of choice?" Noah asked. "To disappear," she said, "or to help expose everything?" He stared. "By becoming Lila." She nodded. Shame flickered across her features, but something like pride, too. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said. "I was meant to gather intel quietly. Dinner conversations, schedules, names, enough to trigger an internal audit. But Cole..." She swallowed. "He likes attention, and attention made me visible. Too visible." Her fingers twisted in her lap. "The affair," Noah said slowly. "Is it real?" Her eyes lifted, shining with something raw. "No," she whispered. "It's survival." He hadn't expected that answer to hit him as hard as it did. "And now someone knows who you really are," he murmured, glancing at the challenge coin. "Yes." He leaned back, mind working. Someone connected to the 19th, or someone who has access to our symbols. She nodded. They're sending a message, Noah. Not about the scandal, about the investigation. He dragged a hand down his face. Jesus. She watched him quietly, as if bracing for judgment. Instead, he stood. Pack a bag, he said. She blinked. What? We're leaving, he said. This place is compromised. I don't care how much security you think you have. The moment someone drops a physical object at your door, you relocate. She shook her head. It's not that simple. Cole has events, meetings. I have to stay visible. No, he said firmly. You have to stay alive. Her breath hitched, not with fear, but with relief so fragile it almost broke him. Why are you helping me? She whispered. He didn't have an easy answer, so he told her the truth. Because someone used a coin from my unit to threaten you, he said. And that means whatever killed your husband just stepped into my world too. She closed her eyes. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Amelia, he said, her real name, the name she'd buried. I don't know who's after you, but I know how these people think. She looked at him. What do they want? She asked. He answered without hesitation. To finish what they started. Her breath trembled. He extended his hand and come with me, he said. Now, and after a heartbeat. She took it. Rain had begun to slide down the tall windows of the penthouse by the time Amelia stuffed the last of her things into a black nylon duffel. Not designer luggage. Nothing with initials or gold zippers. Just the kind of bag soldiers' families kept. Durable, anonymous, built for leaving quickly. Noah stood near the entrance, scanning the hallway camera feed on his tablet. His jaw was locked so tightly it looked carved from stone. 2 minutes, he said. Maybe less. We move fast, stay quiet, and we don't use the lobby. Amelia zipped the duffel. Where do we go? Parking garage first, then a safe place. He didn't specify. Not until they were already moving. Trust, he believed, was earned in layers, not granted in one admission. She approached him, tightening the strap over her shoulder. Rain glimmered faintly in her hair, though she hadn't stepped outside yet. Maybe it was just the reflection of the city lights. You're calm, she said. Too calm. He didn't answer, because it wasn't calm. It was something colder, something that hummed under his skin like the warning before a firefight. Controlled fear, sharpened into readiness. She exhaled. Noah, what if we're already too late? He met her eyes. Then we make it not too late. Her lips parted, but before she could speak, he lifted a finger. Footsteps. Soft, controlled, coming from the hallway outside the penthouse door. He grabbed her wrist and pulled her behind him, silently motioning her back into the kitchen alcove. She pressed herself against the wall, breath shallow. Noah reached for his holster, but stopped. Drawing now might escalate things faster than he could assess them. A shadow passed under the door, then another. 2 people, at least. A faint metallic click, like someone checking a latch or testing the doorknob. Amelia's eyes widened. Noah shook his head once. Stay still. The shadows lingered. One of them leaned closer to the peephole. The glass around it darkened for a brief second. Noah counted silently. 1, 2, 3. Prepared to tackle Amelia toward the emergency bedroom exit if necessary. But then, the shadows moved on. Footsteps receded. A distant ding of the elevator. The penthouse fell still again. Amelia pressed a hand to her chest. Is that normal? No, he said flatly. But we're changing the definition of normal today. He cracked the door open half an inch. Empty hallway. Clean. No stray papers or signs of forced entry. Whoever it was, they had left nothing behind. He shut the door quietly. Go, now. Amelia followed him to the back of the apartment, where a maintenance stairwell connected the penthouse floor to the mechanical levels below. She shivered as the metal door opened, the fluorescent light flickering on with a cold buzz. "This doesn't show up on building maps," Noah said. "I checked earlier." "You checked everything earlier," she murmured. "That's my job." They descended 3 flights in silence. The stairwell smelled faintly of rust and old paint. A pipe hissed somewhere overhead. Noah moved first, scanning each turn, his steps absolutely silent. Amelia followed close, the duffel bouncing lightly against her hip. When they reached the mechanical level, Noah swiped a keycard he'd lifted from a distracted maintenance worker earlier. The metal gate clicked open. "It's strange," Amelia whispered. "What is?" "You walk like someone who's been waiting for this, like you've been preparing for a threat long before I told you anything." He didn't look at her. "Some threats show up even when you don't know their names yet." They slipped through the last door into the parking garage. Dim lights buzzed overhead. A few luxury sedans gleamed in their assigned spots. A black SUV waited at the far end, Cole's car. Its security detail was absent tonight. Good. Noah motioned her toward a nondescript silver sedan parked in a corner spot marked maintenance only. "That's your car?" she asked. "Borrowed," he said. "Borrowed or borrowed?" He allowed the smallest hint of a smile. "The kind where I'll return it without paperwork." He opened the passenger door and guided her inside. As he rounded the hood to the driver's seat, lightning flashed in the sky above the garage ramp, followed by a low rumble of thunder. They drove in silence for several blocks, leaving the government district behind. Amelia finally spoke when they reached a quieter stretch of Massachusetts Avenue. "Noah, what's wrong?" He kept his eyes on the road. "Whoever sent you that challenge coin knew what it meant to me. They weren't just threatening you. That message was meant for both of us." "But why you?" she asked. "Because somebody wants to make sure I stay out of this. Because they know what kind of soldier I was. Because they know I won't walk away." Amelia turned toward him. Streetlights skimmed her face, revealing exhaustion, but also something steadier, resolve. "You don't owe me anything," she said. He gave her a sharp look. "That's where you're wrong." She waited. He gripped the wheel tighter. "When Ward died, your husband's report went nowhere. My team lost 3 men the same year. Different firefight, different base, but the same damn supply inconsistencies he noticed." Her breath caught. "You think it's connected?" "I think," he said slowly, "that someone up the chain wanted people like him, and people like me, to shut up and stay dead." The rain thickened. Drops struck the windshield like hurried fingers. Lightning flashed again, illuminating a brief moment of truth between them. Amelia spoke first. "Where are we going?" "A safe house, Gupta," he said, "outside the city." She watched him. "And after that?" He hesitated. "After that, you tell me everything. Every detail you've never said out loud. Every name, every meeting, every alarm bell you ignored." "And then?" she whispered. "And then," he said, voice low, "we figure out who these people are, before they figure out how to bury you." The car turned onto a long stretch of road leading toward the dark outskirts of the city. Amelia leaned back in the seat, watching the rain carve erratic rivers down the glass. For the first time since she'd said her real name out loud, she didn't look afraid. She looked ready. The safe house wasn't really a house. It was an old ranger cabin tucked away off a Forest Service road an hour outside D.C., the kind of place nobody bothered with except bow hunters, surveyors, and people like Noah who knew how to disappear without leaving tracks. It had no Wi-Fi, no cameras, no curious neighbors, only silence, wet pine, and the distant hum of insects beneath the storm. When the sedan rolled to a stop, Amelia stared at the small wooden structure through the rain-blurred windshield. This is remote, she murmured. That's the point, Noah replied. She hesitated before getting out. The air was colder here, sharper. She hugged her arms around herself as she stepped onto the gravel. Noah swept the perimeter with a flashlight, the beam cutting through darkness like a blade. The forest around them creaked and whispered with the storm's leftover winds. Inside, the cabin was sparse, but not abandoned. Noah clearly kept it stocked. A cot, a small table, a generator, a shut-off phone mounted to the wall with no caller ID, a pot on the stove, 2 emergency lanterns, a folded blanket on the chair. "Do you bring clients here?" Amelia asked softly. "No," he said, "only ghosts." Her expression softened, but she didn't press. He closed the door behind them, bolting it. "Sit, eat something. The adrenaline crash is coming." "I'm fine," she said. "You're running on fumes." She almost argued, but then her shoulders slumped the way someone's do when they stop pretending strength is infinite. She sank into the chair and rested her hands on the table. Noah made instant soup. Nothing fancy, just heat and salt. The kind of thing soldiers learn to appreciate in any form. When he set it in front of her, she stared not at the bowl, but at him. "You're not asking the real question," she said quietly. "Which one is that? Why now? Why the threats? Why the coin? Why everything escalated this week of all weeks?" Noah didn't look away. "I figured you'd tell me when you were ready." Amelia folded her hands, fingers twisting. "There's a hearing tomorrow," she whispered, "on Capitol Hill. The Oversight Committee. Cole's committee." Noah felt something drop inside him. What kind of hearing? One about defense spending, procurement audits, contract renewals. She swallowed. Some of Michael's files were referenced in early drafts of their briefing documents. Nothing explosive yet, just hints. Enough to make Cole nervous. "You think he knows you're involved?" "I think someone knows enough to spook him. Maybe not everything, but enough." Noah paced once, twice. "Those files, the ones your husband had questions about, you said they disappeared." "They did," she said. "Every copy, every trace. But someone must have dug them up again, or maybe they were never gone. And Cole can't afford for those questions to resurface now," Noah murmured. She nodded. "His team's been pushing for a massive contract extension for months. Billions. That hearing is everything." "So someone sends you a threat," he said, "because they want you quiet before tomorrow." "Not quiet," she corrected. "Gone, or discredited. Either one works." Lightning flickered through the cabin window. Though the storm had moved miles away, Noah felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. "What aren't you telling me, Amelia?" She flinched. He stepped closer. "What else did you steal from him?" he asked. "What else are you carrying?" She took a shaky breath. 2 nights ago, Cole left his laptop unlocked. I got 30 seconds, maybe less. "And?" "There was a folder," she said. "A single word. Ward. Inside were emails between 2 contractors and a congressional liaison. They talked about my husband's unit, about shipments, about someone named Walker." Noah went still. Walker. His name. His blood turned cold. "What did they say?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "One message said, Walker didn't see the original manifest. Confirm he was reassigned before shipment. Another one said, if Walker files anything else, we'll handle it like Ward." Silence. Amelia swallowed. "I thought it might be another Walker, but now—" "No," he said, voice tightening. "It was me." He had filed a discrepancy report years ago. A simple complaint about missing scopes and misaligned shipment numbers. Nothing that should have mattered. Nothing that should have put him on a list, but it had. His pulse thudded in his ears. "They killed Ward," he whispered, "because he was close. They would have killed me too, if I had pushed harder." Amelia closed her eyes. I didn't know how to tell you without making you run. He laughed, but it wasn't humor. It was disbelief, anger, something long dormant flaring awake. I don't run, he said quietly, but now I know why they sent that coin. It wasn't just a threat. It was a reminder. A reminder of what? She whispered. That they've buried soldiers before, he said, and they'll do it again if we let them. For a moment, neither spoke. The rain softened outside, turning into a steady whisper against the trees. Finally, Amelia asked, So what do we do? Noah moved to the table, leaned close enough that she had to look him in the eyes. We go on offense, he said. We hit them before they hit us. Her breath trembled. How? He nodded toward the old, wall-mounted phone. We're contacting someone I trust, someone who doesn't ask questions unless I say so. Another soldier? No, he said. A journalist. Her eyes widened. That's dangerous. That's leverage, he said. And right now, it's the only thing keeping you alive. A branch scraped against the cabin roof like fingernails. Amelia shivered. Noah reached for the phone. Then the generator flickered. Once. Twice. The lights died. Darkness swallowed the cabin whole. Amelia whispered his name. Noah? He didn't respond, because outside, in the silence after the generator died, he heard footsteps. Not one set. 3. Slow. Deliberate. Coming straight toward the door. For 5 long seconds, the cabin held its breath. No generator hum, no flicker of emergency lights, just darkness, dense, absolute, and the unmistakable crunch of boots on wet pine needles outside. Amelia's whisper barely reached him. Noah, what do we do? He lifted a hand, quiet, and lowered himself into a crouch, letting his eyes adjust to the thin bluish light filtering through the window. Shapes slowly emerged. The table, the cot, Amelia's silhouette frozen beside the chair. Noah moved silently to the corner, grabbed the emergency lantern, but didn't turn it on. Light was a beacon. Light meant target. The footsteps paused outside. 3 distinct sets, a low murmur of voices, too faint to parse. Then a metallic scrape. They were testing the lock. Noah mouthed, "Back room, move, now." Amelia nodded, her breath uneven, gripping the duffel like a lifeline. She stepped lightly, but the old wooden floor betrayed her with a soft creak. The voices outside fell silent. Noah swore under his breath. He positioned himself between Amelia and the door, weapon now drawn, not to attack, but to calculate, to choose the moment with precision. He didn't know who these men worked for. Cole? Contractors? The mysterious liaison from those emails? Whoever they weren't here to negotiate. A faint tap hit the wood, metal on metal. Amelia whispered, "Are they?" "Yes," Noah said. "They're picking the lock." Her hand tightened on his sleeve. "There's no back exit." "There is," he said, "but it's loud, and close to the front porch. They'll hear." "So what's the plan?" He inhaled once, steady and controlled. "The plan is, we don't die." The lock clicked. Noah pushed Amelia toward the back room. "Inside, stay low. Don't make a sound." She slid inside just as the doorknob began to turn. The cabin door opened slowly, deliberately. Flashlights, 3, cut through the pitch black. Beams swept the floors, the table, the cot. Noah pressed into the shadows, body still as stone, watching the silhouettes enter one by one. They moved with the discipline of trained men, shoulders squared, feet silent, formations tight, not amateurs. The first stepped in fully, tactical vest, suppressor on his weapon, earpiece glinting faintly. "Clear left," he whispered. Clear right. Advance. They weren't here to search. They were here to execute. As the second man passed the table, Noah struck, silent, precise, hooking an arm around the man's throat and dragging him backward into the blind spot between the fridge and wall. The man thrashed once, but Noah cut off his wind before he could vocalize. 30 seconds, maybe less, and the body went limp. He eased the man down gently, retrieving the suppressed pistol. 2 left. The other men froze, sensing something off. "Bravo 3?" one whispered. Noah moved quickly, flattening behind a low shelf. The second assailant swept his beam across the far wall, steps cautious but steady. "Bravo 3, respond." Noah waited until the man turned. 1 step. Another. Now. He lunged, snatching the man's wrist, twisting hard. The gun clattered to the floor. The man swung a fist, but Noah ducked, driving an elbow into his ribs, then his throat. The man collapsed, gasping. The third assailant reacted instantly, beam snapping toward Noah's position, gun raised. Noah dove behind the table as the suppressed shot hissed through the air, splintering wood. He slid across the floor, grabbed the fallen man's gun, and returned fire. Thup, thup, thup. 3 quiet bursts. 1 hit the attacker's shoulder. He stumbled, backing toward the door. Noah advanced, weapon steady. "Drop it," he growled. The attacker didn't drop it. Instead, he smiled. Thin, cold. And Noah understood. The smile wasn't victory. It was delay. A distraction. Because behind him, outside, the unmistakable rumble of another vehicle approaching cut through the storm-quiet woods. A black SUV. Amelia's voice came from the back room, trembling. "Noah, what's happening?" He kept his voice calm. "Visitors." The attacker at the door took advantage of Noah's split attention and sprinted into the night. Noah made a move to follow, but stopped. He couldn't leave the cabin. Not with Amelia inside. Not with a second threat pulling up outside. He grabbed the lantern, flipped it on for half a second, long enough to blind the dying flashlight beams, and dragged both unconscious bodies toward the back room. Amelia recoiled at the sight. "Are they?" "Alive," Noah said. "For now." "What do they want?" He handed her a gun, one she clearly didn't want to hold, but did. Her hands trembled as she wrapped her fingers around the grip. "They want to erase a problem," he said. "Unfortunately for them, you're still breathing." The SUV outside shut off. Doors opened. Multiple. Heavy. Noah killed the lantern and pulled Amelia close. "Listen to me," he whispered. "This ends tonight. Not because we win, because we survive long enough to strike back." Her breath hitched. "Noah." He leaned his forehead to hers. Steady. Grounding. "They're underestimating you," he murmured. "That's their first mistake." "What's the second?" He looked toward the door. "Thinking they can walk in here and leave alive." A shadow crossed the window. A voice outside called out, "Amelia Ward, we know you're inside. Open the door now, and maybe we let him live." Amelia stiffened. "Him?" she whispered. Noah's jaw locked. They weren't bluffing. They had someone. Someone they thought mattered. He whispered, "Stay behind me. Do not move unless I tell you." He raised his gun. Another voice outside spoke, colder, calculated. "Last chance. We have your ranger." Amelia's eyes widened. "Noah," she breathed, "they don't mean you." His blood ran cold. He stepped closer to the window. Lightning flashed. And in that split second of white-hot light, Noah saw a figure on their knees, hands bound, face bruised. A man Noah recognized instantly. His old unit medic. Alive. Captured. Dragged here as bait. Amelia's whisper trembled. "Noah, what do they want from us?" He didn't look away from the window. "Everything," he said. "They want everything." Thunder cracked overhead, and the men outside began to move. The moment Noah saw his old medic, Evan Hale, kneeling in the mud outside, everything inside him narrowed to a cold, surgical focus. The rain fell in long silver threads, streaking across the window, distorting Evan's face, but not the blood at the corner of his mouth. Amelia clutched Noah's arm. "We can't let them kill him." "They won't," Noah said. "Not before they get what they came for." "And what is that?" "Us." Another voice barked outside. "Ward, bring out the files, bring out the girl, bring out Walker. We only need the 3 things you stole." Amelia's throat tightened. "Files, laptop access, and you." Lightning flashed again. Noah stepped back from the window, the gun steady in his hand. "They won't breach until they think they've scared us into mistakes." "Then what do we do?" He looked down at Evan outside, shaking, trying to keep breathing. The same medic who once patched up Noah's leg in a blown-out compound overseas. "We split their attention," Noah murmured. "Buy time, create chaos, and run." Amelia stared at him. "Run where?" "Toward the people who want the truth, not the people who want us gone." She understood instantly. "The journalist," she whispered. "The one you trust." He nodded. "If we don't get what you know into the right hands, we die for nothing." A shadow crossed the window again, one of the men outside growing impatient. "Enough games!" the voice barked. "Bring them out, or the medic dies first." Amelia flinched. "Noah?" He squeezed her shoulder. "An anchor, a promise. He helped save my life. I'm not letting them take his." "But how?" He motioned toward the back of the cabin. "There's a service hatch behind the water heater. It leads under the cabin and out toward the ravine. It's narrow. You'll fit." "And you?" He didn't answer. "Noah," her voice broke, "you're not staying to fight them alone." "I'm not dying us," he said. "I'm drawing them away. There's a difference." "Boom," she whispered, grabbing the front of his shirt. "Not after everything." He leaned his forehead to hers, grounding her the same way he had in the dark moments earlier. "You told me once your mission mattered more than your life. I'm telling you the same thing now. What you know, what they did to Ward, to Evan, to my unit, it has to come out. You're the only one who can expose it." Her hand trembled over his heart. "I don't want to lose you." "You're not going to," he said softly. "You're going to see me again after this." Even if he didn't entirely believe it himself, she needed to. He guided her to the service hatch. She knelt, pulling the cover aside, revealing a narrow tunnel descending into darkness. "Noah, I'll be right behind you," he lied gently. She hesitated, then kissed him. It was quick, desperate, a collision of fear and hope and everything they hadn't allowed themselves to feel. When she pulled back, her breath shook against his cheek. "Make them pay," she whispered. "I intend to." She disappeared into the crawl space. The metal grate clicked shut. Noah pressed a crate over it. Then he turned toward the front door. He stepped into the center of the room, gun ready, breath steady. Bang, bang, bang. Fists slammed the door. "Noah Walker," another voice joined. "Come out, and we'll make it clean." He smiled, a cold, humorless thing. "You boys clearly never met an angry ranger." He threw the lantern across the room, shattering it, flooding the cabin with sudden light. Gunshots immediately tore through the door, drawn to the burst of brightness. Noah dove behind the table, firing 3 clean rounds through the wood, hitting one man squarely in the thigh. A scream tore through the storm. They rushed the door. He wanted them to. The door burst open. Noah fired again. 2 shots, dropping the first man. The second lunged at him. Noah slammed him into the wall so hard the man's earpiece snapped off. A third fired from the doorway. Noah rolled, the bullet grazing his shoulder. "Walker, stand down!" the attacker roared. "Not my style," Noah growled back. He shot the lantern next, plunging the room back into darkness, blinding everyone for a crucial heartbeat. He sprinted for the back room, out the broken window, and into the storm. Gunfire chased him but missed. The forest swallowed him whole. Down the ravine, Amelia crawled through mud and roots, her breath ragged, heart pounding in her ears. She emerged beneath a tangle of brush, soaked through, trembling. She wiped rain from her eyes, listening. Gunshots, shouts, the storm swallowing everything again. "Noah?" she whispered. Footsteps behind her. She whipped around. But the figure approaching held up hands, empty, shaking. Evan Hale. His face bruised, his wrists raw, but alive. "I saw you crawl out," he rasped. He told me to get you out, this way. There's an access road." Amelia grabbed him under the arm and helped him up. "We're not leaving him." "We have to," Evan croaked. "He ordered it. He said you had to finish the mission." Tears blurred her vision, but she kept moving, forcing them both through the brush until they reached the dirt track leading downhill. Headlights appeared, a single car coming fast. Evan froze. "That them?" "No," Amelia said, recognizing the old Toyota from the sticker on the windshield. The journalist Noah had contacted months ago, someone he'd clearly kept in his back pocket for a day like this. The car screeched to a stop. A woman leaned out. "Amelia Ward?" Amelia nodded, breathless. The journalist unlocked the back door. "Get in, both of you." Amelia shoved Evan inside, then turned back toward the forest. "Noah!" she screamed into the storm. No answer, only the echo of thunder rolling through the trees. The journalist grabbed her arm. "You want the truth out? You get in the car now." Amelia hesitated, torn in two, then slid into the back seat as the car sped away, mud spraying behind the tires. Through the rear window, the forest receded, dark and endless. She didn't know if Noah was alive. She didn't know if he made it out. But the flash drive in her pocket, the one she'd taken from Cole's laptop, pressed hard against her leg like a heartbeat. The truth wasn't dead. Not yet. And as the headlights cut through the night, Amelia wiped rain and tears from her face and whispered into the trembling quiet, "I'll come back for you, Noah. I swear it." The storm raged on, but for the first time in years, the truth had somewhere to go, and it was done being silent.